Welcome back to the second installment of the Road to Haibun. I'm still like wondering whether I'm, pronouncing it correctly, but anyway,
Haibun.
I
Yeah.
am okay. Thank you for that, because yeah, I'm from the Midwest and we massacre the pronunciation of everything. Anyhow, welcome. We're back here, Art in the Basin, and our workshop leader, Cheryl Fish, who will lead us, hopefully, people who are returning from last week. You were given the assignment to try and write and perfect your Haibun that you maybe had started last week, and you can share it with us and so on and so forth. Just trying to think what else I can mention other than, yeah, we're Art in the Basin. I'm Tim. I'm the co-host, and you'll see under AITB, Amy Joy, who is the other co-host of Art in the Basin. We've been around for 8 years now, based here in the Bronx, New York, with a reading series we've done every other Tuesday for many years now at Monomore Coffee and Wine in the Northwest Bronx, corner of 238th Street and Broadway, for those of you who may know New York City's geography. Let me just tell you, we have one upcoming event before the end of the year. Um, we don't have an open mic, and maybe Amy Joy can correct me, but you can certainly do the live stream on YouTube that we always do. We have a great lineup that I would really recommend checking out. We have the Westchester County Poet Laureate, Felicia Villanueva. We have the award-winning, widely published Riverdale poet, Sarah Stern. And finally, the musician, Kevin Delaney, who will perform his Christmas song and I don't know, maybe a couple other tunes. So I don't know, we'll have to find out. But anyway, do check it out. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the Bronx, New York, Monomore Coffee and Wine, or on YouTube, streaming live. Anyway, let's turn it over to our wonderful workshop leader in part two, Cheryl Fish.
Thank you. So since we're doing promotions, I I wanted to just say I'm a co-coordinator of the Village Story Salon in the West Village of New York City at the Hudson Park New York Public Library branch, and it's a once a month event, prose reading with 3 or 4 readers on a different theme. And tomorrow night we have the theme of feast for December, of course. And we have Sarita McFadden, Raquel Goodison, and Amy Gottlieb. And Amy is from the Bronx, incidentally. So I just thought I'd mention that for those of you who may be interested. And if you are interested, we have a monthly event on a different theme. We can put you on our mailing list if that's something you'd like to stay in touch with. And we ask people to read usually who have recent publications or books, though not exclusively, but that's kind of what we've done so far, and the series just started. Okay, so tonight we have a follow-up on Haibun, writing Haibun, and I think everyone was here last time except for you, Susan. Susan, do you want to turn on your camera by any chance? Um, I wondered if you
No,
need any kind
I
of
leave it up.
review of Haibun, or if you're okay if I just carry on, or do you want me to sort of summarize? Also, I did post the notes from last week, so everyone who's here should be able to see those notes. It's in a shared Google Doc that you have access to. So, Susan, if you don't need anything, I'll just go on. But if you'd like me to review Haibun, I'm happy to do so. Let me know. Can you
Oh, sure. I'm fine as I am. I'm familiar with this already, and I'm really interested to see what I can get from here. This will be fun. And I'm so sorry I missed last week. We had an unexpected thing happen. So I'm
okay.
glad to be back here today, actually here.
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to share a Haibun by Eileen Kennedy. Some of you may know her. She's from the Pioneer Valley. And I was hoping she would be with us here tonight, but she was unable to make it. So this is a Haibun that's based on her parents' relationship. Whoops. Sorry, technical glitch. So it's called Water Journey. Before I was born, my parents met in San Jose, Costa Rica. My father, Gregorio, a Tico and linguistics student at the University of Costa Rica. My mother, Sarah, a Bostonian and exchange student trying to learn Spanish. My father spoke 7 languages, including Chibchan, the dialect of his Bribri grandfather. His charm and facility in English won my mother's heart. My father finished his doctorate at the University of Massachusetts, while my mother did her degree in fine arts writing at Amherst College. They married and moved to New York City, my father teaching at Columbia and my mother writing novels. I visited the Valley Central once as a 6-year-old and remember my grandfather's easy smile and the striking colors and smells. I inherited my father's dark hair and broad build, and my mother's blue eyes and fondness for the written word. They were continually together, even when they disappeared. And here's the haiku. Their love at first sight, always present and growing, leaves me lost without. So I thought we'd start by having you comment on what is set up here in this initial verse. Keep in mind, this is the first verse of many verses in this Haibun series. So what is she setting up? How does the haiku summarize or condense the speaker's feelings about her parents? And what did you think of the format of the narrative written in poetic lines as opposed to prose, but very much having a prose-like sensibility, I would say. So just wanted to know any of your thoughts and comments on this. So.
Well, it seems to depart from what we had all discussed as traditional Haibun in its autobiographical nature. And so it's very 21st century, I guess, as opposed to a more traditional form.
Yes. Anything else?
It seems like something you and I discussed a little bit via Gmail, flash memoirish,
Yes.
sort of a hybrid with using flash memoir and haiku.
Yes. So that's, Jane and I were having an email conversation about that because you write that, Jane. You write flash memoir, right? Yeah. So
Yes.
So I agree. I think it doesn't quite have the feel of a traditional haibun, but I thought that the haiku is a very nice reflection and condensation of the commitment these people have to each other and the way they were together and the strength of their relationship, even though they were different from different cultures and different backgrounds. And certainly I would look forward to reading more about this relationship and maybe the challenges they faced and things like that. So I was hoping she would be here to talk to us about it, but she couldn't make it. And so I really don't have a lot more to say about it. So yeah, I would say that's an unconventional haibun, and also that clearly it lends itself to this type of almost flash memoir. For those of you not familiar with flash, it's usually under 1,000 words, and it can be, I write flash fiction. So, that's a short story that would be 1,000 words or less. And there's also something called flash memoir or flash nonfiction, which would be, nonfiction or memoir that's short also. And I know for me in a story, it has to have a story arc when I write flash fiction. it has to have a traditional story arc. Otherwise, it could just be a prose poem. For me, I make the distinction between a story, a fictional story, and a prose poem with a story arc. So that's me, though. There are people that write, I guess, memoir and fiction that don't have a story arc, that just, it could be impressionistic or imagistic or character driven, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a story arc. But for me, that's the distinction I make. Everyone know a story arc when I say that, what that is? I don't want to confuse anybody. The story arc is it's sort of like the parabola, you know. I don't have a program that I can draw it, but basically, you know, it's the traditional way that a story is told, that there's an inciting incident, and there's building up, there's building up of plot and incidents and conflicts, and then some things get resolved and other things are not quite yet resolved. And then there's the climax, you know, of the main climax of the story, and then there's the falling off, the falling action, and then there's the conclusion. So that's kind of a brief idea of the story arc. And Haibun certainly doesn't have to have a story arc, in my opinion. It really doesn't. Okay, so I thought now the next thing that we do is I'd have you talk about your process for the week between, and share what you wrote, either if you did a revision of the one you started last week, or if you wrote a new one and you wanted to share it. So let's just see how many people want to do that, so I have an idea how much time we need for that. So how many people would like to share something they wrote and talk? Okay, Miriam.
Yeah, I sent you
Brenda.
yeah, hi. Sure, I sent you my
Yeah, I know,
address.
but it was just very last minute, so I didn't have a chance to do anything
Oh,
with it.
okay, so let me
Um,
see if you can.
But
I
you
gave
might be able to share your screen. Amy Joy is gonna enable you to share your screen.
Yes, Miriam, you have host capability now, so you can share your screen.
So how can I do that?
You have to have it open in a separate tab, your poem.
Okay.
And then if you go down to the green arrow where it says,
Yeah, I saw the green. Okay, so I have it here. I think, yes, I can do it.
you see where it says share? So you hit that, and then you should see the files that you have open, and then you click on the one that you want to share.
That's so funny because I opened my, and then my Zoom went away, so I don't know.
Well, first you have to have your poem in a like separate tab.
Yeah, okay. I have it in a separate chat, and I was gonna share
Then you
it.
have to push the green arrow or whatever
Yes.
color the arrow is.
Yes,
that
I
will
did.
share.
I
And then
did.
you should see the file with your poem in it that was in the tab. It should be in that box with different different items. Is it there?
It's so weird. Okay, let me just see if I can bring it to
You know,
my.
the problem is if you sent it to me last minute, I didn't have a chance to do it.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Yeah.
But I can read it if you want.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I would have to go into my email to go get it.
No, I can read it from my.
Okay. Okay. But
so-
anyone else that wants to share, I hope if you have yours prepared in a separate tab, then hopefully you'd be able to share it and share the screen. Okay. Okay. So go ahead and read it then.
My mother. I'm 6 years old and getting ready to go to my first grade elementary school. My mother is braiding my hair and adorning it with a pink ribbon. My uniform is black and white and really excited to wear that. I leave with mixed feelings of nervousness and excitement. My friend Mimi from kindergarten is waiting for me at school. Our teacher is this old lady with a ponytail and a long gray attire. Is a bit scary to my eye. I'm meekly following her rules. First, she teaches us the alphabets. Then she calls each of us to go to the blackboard. She holds our little fingers and draws our names on the board. I am so thrilled that I can write my name on the board even without her help. My friend Mimi's name is shorter, and I actually like the fact that I'm writing more letters on the board. The bell rings and I'm still in the mode of drawing my name even with my foot on the ground. My mother, tall and beautiful with a red lipstick and a long dress of bold colors, is eagerly awaiting me. I tell her immediately that I can write my name. She is beyond herself. Sorry.
Where's the haiku? Could you type the haiku in the chat?
Yeah, wait. Oh, wait. Sorry. She's beyond herself and teaches me how to write her name, my father and my siblings' names too. I can't believe that I have accomplished so much in one day. My mother gives me a prize, which is my favorite snack of butter and homemade Queen's jam on a piece of toast. I can only offer this to my mother. My mother's hugging, her sweet orange blossoms bosom makes my world.
Put the haiku in the chat and it should follow the 575, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Sure. Ah, something is missing. Okay. Yes, I will put it in the chat.
So that's a very vivid experience. The one with the foot on the ground, that stood out to me, that expression of the foot on the ground, because it was very concrete and very specific and unusual.
Oh. Okay. I just put it there. But I
Oh.
don't know.
Could you tell us the first line?
My mother's hugging.
My mother's hugging. I think it's 6 syllables. Her sweet orange blossom
Hold on.
makes my world. It's not quite 575, so I would encourage you to work on that.
Yeah, I thought you said that it's not necessarily.
It isn't, but I think if you force yourself to do it, you won't use a word like makes. You know,
that's true.
You know that you'll use a more interesting. You'll use a more interesting verb.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you need that extra syllable, like creates or
Right.
astonishes.
Yes, astonishes.
Or so it's true. I said we don't have to stick to it, but I think when you're starting out, it's better to stick to it, and there's a reason that it works with 575. It forces you to have uncommon syntax. So I think uncommon syntax is really important in using Japanese forms. And that's why I like the foot on the ground, Miriam, because it was uncommon. It was not common, you know, and the rest of it, again, it was like a flash memoir, because it was like a very straightforward storytelling. Whereas I think in Haibun, it should be shorter, more cryptic, less, maybe cutting out the less important detail and only having the very imagistic, powerful moments. So even though it's a great story, I think to make it more, let's say Haibun-like, you would want to edit it down a bit.
Okay.
And does anyone else want to say anything about what Miriam read and shared? It's a great story. It's a great memory. The day you learn to write your name and other people's names, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yes, that's what I was going to say is it's, you know, no matter where you went to school or whatever, it's something that a lot of people can relate to. And I think that sort of gets you over the threshold, you know, when writing something that people can easily relate to it. So yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you. Okay.
Now, to make it slightly more poetic, if you focus on writing my name, what does it mean to write your name? What does it mean to be able to do that? I know it would be the adult sensibility, right? Saying what does it mean to be able to do this? Thinking about it outside the actual experience. So again, a little bit of reflecting in there could be interesting,
Mm.
know? Integrating the reflection with the actual experience. So it's a really great draft. So you have a lot to work with there. I have, when I've taken flash fiction workshops, and so I've just told you that that has to be a maximum of 1,000 words, which is very little to begin with. One of the assignments is cut your flash in half.
Mm.
And you think, how can I cut it in half? It's already so short. But then you do it and you're like, it's so much better when I cut it in half. There's just something about being forced to cut things that gets it to the bone, that gets down to only the bare essentials, that cuts out, the stuff that's not quite as powerful. It's good, but not quite as powerful.
Okay.
So that's just a general comment that even though I'm working on a novel and I write long form as well as short form, what I learned from flash fiction is that it's good to cut things. It's good to kill your darlings.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and it's not easy. And you may want to have a file. I call it my discard file. And I save things that I force myself to cut because they're hard to let go of. So that way they're in a file in my computer, just in case I ever want to go back and get something. So, okay. James, you wanted to share yours, right? I don't think James has a microphone. So I don't know how he's going to do this. Is this yours? His is. Yes, it's painful to throw out stuff. Absolutely, Tim. And Tim has written novels. So Tim, when you wrote your novels, did you have to throw out anything? Or did you throw out things?
I threw out so much stuff. You could probably write another novel from the stuff I threw out. But unfortunately, it was all random and it probably wouldn't hang together as a novel. But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
very painful experience.
It doesn't hang together, but sometimes there's like one line in the discard pile that could be
Yeah,
used.
no, for sure. Yeah, like there would be like something that would stick out and I inserted it somewhere else in another project and it worked out. But yeah, there's a lot of words on the cutting room floor in my house.
Okay. So James doesn't have a mic, I don't think, and he doesn't have a camera. So James, why don't you type your Haibun in the chat? I hope it's short because if it's long, it's going to be really hard to read. The chat is a very long and narrow column, at least that's how mine is, so it's not exactly easy to read from there. So I wish you had sent it to me in an email earlier, anyone who wanted to share theirs, because then I could have had time to to get it together. Okay, while he's doing that, this Brenda, do you have yours that you think you could share your screen? Do you have it as
I've tried accessing where I actually wrote a couple of Haibun since last week, inspired by this workshop. And I wrote one that I did type up, but I cannot access at the same time.
Oh,
It's in
okay.
Microsoft and I can't do it. So I could read the draft that from my.
It's not the one you sent me, right? Which was a revision from last week. It's a new
This is
one.
the new one.
Okay.
You
want to say something about it first? I realize that.
About the new one?
Yeah, like what inspired you, or what were you trying to do, or was it in your list of topics that you had made from last week?
After the workshop, I made a whole new list of topics, and it wasn't any of those. And it seemed to come from, it's fiction. I would say probably flash fiction plus the haiku. And so
No, it's long.
it's short.
Oh, okay. Flash fiction is 1,000 words. So if it's short,
It's not that long.
Okay, then
It's
there's
less than a minute.
microfiction, okay? I'm teaching, Jane does all.
Mini flash fiction.
Yeah, no, there's a
Put it in
micro flash is
in one setting.
500 or less. It's called micro flash. And then there's even a shorter one. I mean, there's all these crazy new forms. I feel like
Actually,
they're
I
coming up
wondered
with.
about that.
Yeah.
I was telling a friend of mine, Simon Walsh, who is a published poet and very good writer, and I was telling him about the workshop, and he had the question of how long is a haibun? You know, how long should
Well, they vary in length. The ones I shared with you last week that are in the document that you can access are very short.
Yeah.
But Basho has them of different lengths because his was like a travel diary.
which I haven't read yet,
Yeah,
but how
right.
long do they go?
And then the ones I showed you last week, the one about the cat was short, right? And the one about the breakup and then the woman with the tattoo,
Yeah.
those were all short. And
I referred him to Basho
okay.
and told him there's a lot of stuff on Google about
And
haibun.
there's many other writers, Kamiko Han, you may have heard of her. She writes using a lot of different Japanese forms. She's Japanese American. She writes using a lot of Japanese forms, and you know, so you could probably look her up and find some very interesting you know, work that she's done. And I tend to like them short. I tend to like them short because I think if they get too long, you have to wait too long to get to the haiku. You know, for me, I feel like if they're long, then maybe it's something else that it's not quite this. But you know, that's just my feeling. I think if you can make it work in the long form, that's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to reading more Basho, his haibun, rather than what I was more familiar with, which was just haiku.
Right.
But
Okay.
but
Bill James has shared his
Oh,
poem.
great. Okay. So sorry, Brenda. Now we're gonna go to James.
We'll come right back to you, Brenda.
no problem. I'll mute. So.
Okay. So here's James's. I don't think he could read it because he doesn't have a mic, but does anyone want to try to read it? Anyone want to read this? No, then I guess I
I'll
will.
read this. I'll read it for you. I mean, I'm
Okay.
happy to read.
Do you see it? Do you
Ferry
see it in the
crossing?
chat? Yeah,
Yeah.
ferry crossing.
Brenda, you do it,
Crossing
please.
by
Brenda
James.
has a lovely voice.
Oh, thank you. Ferry Crossing by James Hanna. The terminal doors glide open. We move forward into morning, a solid mass of people. Our oneness parts, passes over the two elevated gangways. They look so fragile for our weight. The ferry boat gained at last. I walk forward, seeking a seat. There on my right, one not yet filled. I ease myself into it between two already seated. I make the best of hard wood beneath me and little space. Soon mooring cable hooks clank against the lower ramp. The hum of engines increases. Slip pilings begin moving past the windows. The boat's bow parts the summer heat. Beside me, pressed tightly, a person whose supper was laced with garlic. Crushed against my other shoulder, a man competes for my attention with his body odor, that of one leg unbathed. I think of moving, but to where? All seats are filled. I wait for the journey to end, the boat to dock. The ferry boat dawdles, in no hurry to cross the sunlit bay. I take shallow breaths, crossing the bay, trying to travel alone. Summer intrudes.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Well, that's really great. That's really lovely, James. I think he really captures the observation and the description and the objective tone that Haibun calls for, to look at the setting where he is and create the sensation of being on the boat. And then the garlic breath of the person next to him, which is the humor, right? And that he wants to move, but he can't move. And then the haiku at the end. I thought that was really lovely. And thanks for sharing that with us. And got in a lot of the feelings from all the different senses, And it had a contemplative feeling to it. It had a contemplative tone, which I think we find in Haibun. It had that. So thank you very much. Anyone else want to say anything else about it? Okay.
I'm not sure where the haiku is. Am I not seeing it?
It was
I
at the
take-
end. It was there at the end. It might not
Yes.
have followed the exact
Okay, yeah, I'm
syllables.
counting
Here
the
it is.
syllables.
Here
Yeah.
it is, right here. Sorry. I'll find it.
I counted the syllables. I'm not seeing the syllable.
No, here it is.
structure.
Trying to travel. So trying to travel, that's 5. But he should have spaced it so we see it's a separate line. Then alone, yeah. Unless I'm starting it at the wrong space.
Uh,
Maybe it's crossing the bay. Yeah. So crossing the bay is 4. Trying to travel alone is the 7, and then summer intrude. So it's 4-7-4. So James, you need one more syllable in your haiku in the first and third lines. Even though it's nice the way it is, if you come up with that extra syllable, I bet you'll have to take a more unconventional verb. And like trying is a fairly conventional verb. I bet if you get that extra syllable, you might force you to find something even better. So in the interest of time, I think we should write another one, even though it means you don't get to read. Is that okay, Brenda?
No problem.
Okay. So let me share the assignment with you. Okay. Oh, I got to get rid of this. I'm sorry because it keeps coming. It's my photo library. Okay. So this is the assignment for now. Write a haibun about the changing of the seasons from fall to winter and the coming and going of another year and what that evokes for you. First, make a list of what details, images, sounds, or tastes come to your mind before you write. Put one image in the chat. Then draft a haibun, including prose and haiku. And I thought we'd take 7 to 8 minutes for this process. So if you want to start with jotting down some details that you want to include, because winter solstice is coming upon us shortly, and a new year, holidays. I know there's a lot of strong emotions connected with these things. So let's jot that down. When you feel ready, put one image or word in the chat. Oh, we have pomegranate. That's great. Wood smoke. Lovely. Freezing. Darkness in droves. I had to put in overeating because I think that's such a big part of this time of year. Okay, so here's some more nice ones. Poinsettias, 3 poinsettias. Snowdrop flowers, I can't wait. So this person's already going to spring. Right, great. Okay, so if you see anything in the chat that you want to include in what you write, feel free to take that. Molting, molting, molting leaves is nice. Okay, so why doesn't everybody work on something a haibun with some prose and a haiku? You may not have a lot of time to get it all down, but do the best you can. And so I'm gonna stop you at 7:42. I don't know why it went into the YouTube screen, Amy Joy, all of a sudden, at least on my computer.
Yep, I took advantage to do a little advertising in this brief moment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Time's up. I know it was not enough time. But how about if we go around and everyone reads one line from what they wrote? It could be your prose part, or it could be your haiku. If it's your haiku, you could read the whole haiku if you got a chance to write your haiku. If it's from your prose section, then read 1 or 2 lines from that. So Christina, do you want to read yours?
Okay, so I haven't done the haiku, but I started the prose part.
Great.
The last of the crunching leaves under my feet, cold crisp air bites me as I breathe. My pace is quick, hoping to get to warmth, no longer taking time to see that the reds and browns now bare.
Thank you. Brenda?
Last line from the narrative part.
Okay.
He looks at her, kindness in pale blue eyes.
Nice. Thank you. Tim?
I hate the cold, but I do like the astronomy.
Yeah. Great. Is that the line?
That is the line. I
That's a
haven't
great line.
quite,
I hate the cold.
imagined, beyond that.
I
I mean,
think it's a great topic, and you'd
there's
write.
a long complaint about winter.
I know, but I think if you put in the astronomy, that'll be fabulous. Because it's true, in winter we get some good astronomy and we can see certain planets and everything, right? Isn't
Absolutely.
Yeah, isn't there one we can see really well?
Jupiter.
Yeah, that's the one, Jupiter. So, yeah, a Haibun about Jupiter in winter is fantastic. Do it. Do it, and everybody else can too if they're so inclined. Jane?
So this is the haiku. Like tears falling fast, she rues the coming of night, sad to see day end.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Amy Joy, do you have one? I don't know. Maybe she's
Sorry, ma'am. No, I do not.
not playing.
Freeze under pressure.
Okay. Okay, Miriam?
Yeah, I read just 2 lines, the first 2 lines probably. Solstice, the longest and darkest night, and I crave for the crimson pomegranates.
Thank you. Beautiful. I love pomegranate. I put it in mine. And James, let's see if he wrote his in the chat. Time flows river-like, upstream is lost forever, winter's the mileposts. Very pretty. Winter's the milepost. Love it. Very strong. Very strong image. Yeah. How was that? Did you get something generally? You feel like you got something you can work with? Yeah, excellent. I love prompts because I feel like they always give me possibilities of things I can work with, you know? So, I'm gonna share with you the one I wrote from last week. I started it last week and then I revised it over the week we were apart. It's short. Okay. And I took the title from someone else. I stole one of your titles. Cold Feet. A stalled friendship floats in the ocean of forgiveness for a while, but eventually drifts away. If only one friend keeps a ball in the air, it gets caught in the breeze of time and deflates. Friendships are like campfires, requiring fresh logs before the embers die. When silence between us reigned, it hurt like a leg cramp, a walk over coal. Your last refusal covered summer's long light with silent excuses. Okay, so in the time we have left, what would you like to do?
Hear that again.
What is that?
Hear that again.
Oh, mine? Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
really loved it.
Thank you. I wrote it fast. I read fast. I tend to read too fast, I think. Cold feet. A stalled friendship floats in an ocean of forgiveness for a while, but eventually drifts away. If only one friend keeps a ball in the air, it gets caught in the breeze of time and deflates. Friendships are like campfires, requiring fresh logs before the embers die. When silence between us reigned, it hurt like a leg cramp, a walk over coal. Your last refusal covered summer's long light with silent excuses. So you'll notice that I use a lot of similes. I use a lot of similes in this. So like or as, comparisons. Friendships are like campfires, silence hurt like a leg cramp, keeping a ball in the air. So I think metaphor and figurative language is very important in especially in poems. And they're also important in prose, but I think they're really, really essential in poetry. So even if a haibun has a prose section, I think it's a very poetic type of prose. So that's why I would encourage you to focus on figurative language and use similes and metaphors if they work for you. Because I think I read somewhere that human brains love figurative language, that it makes something really, we feel something more if it's written in figurative language, comparisons and metaphors. So you can't have only those, right? It's too much if it's all that, but then I think if you get the right ones and you work them into what you're doing, it'll be stronger. So I'll definitely encourage that. And practice, if you practice with them. When I was teaching creative writing at BMCC, I have a whole handout on practicing figurative language, where you sort of force yourself to come up with all these different kind of metaphors and comparisons and descriptive sentences, and eventually I think they just come out if you practice enough.
Jane, did you have something to add?
Well, I put a question in the chat for Cheryl or anyone.
I saw.
Are you submitting haibuns and our journals? It seems like, oh, poetry or prose when you're submitting something, or creative nonfiction.
Good question, Jane.
Yeah.
Well, for instance, I missed the deadline I was intending to submit and I didn't. Rattle, the journal Rattle, it's a very prestigious journal out in California. They had a call for haibun recently. So I think there are times when you may see a specific call. Certainly there's journals that publish haiku, whole journals that just publish haiku. But I would submit it just as whatever you feel it's the closest thing to. So if you think it's prose, then I would submit it as prose. If you think it's poetry, I would submit it as poetry. But hybrid is another thing. You'll see a lot of journals these days are asking for hybrid, right? I've noticed a lot of journals asking for hybrid. So you could also possibly, if you are submitting haibun, you could in your cover letter say, I'm submitting haibun. And it combines prose and poetry, and you know, I've been experimenting with that, and I just wanted to I just would love to get some of it published or whatever you want to say when you submit in a cover letter. I mean, I'm not used to explaining my work when I put in a cover letter, right? Usually you don't do that. But if you were at all worried about whether it fit or not, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I'm submitting some Haibun which combine prose and haiku. I don't think there's anything terrible about that, you know? As long as you're brief, I think no one wants to read long cover letters, that's for sure. But if you're very brief and to the point, I don't think it would be a problem to say that. Anything else that you'd like to bring up, or?
Well, the one thing, about this entire form that I'm struggling with is, the haiku is no problem for me, right? I mean, I can come up with a little haiku thing. It's the prose part that I think really I'm struggling with.
What's the
And
struggle?
I'm a prose writer, which
I
is
know.
weird. Um,
What's the
but it
struggle?
has to be like very encapsulated, right, into a short section. And that's the thing that I struggle with is it's not so much the haiku, it's the prose preceding.
But I know you also write poems. So could you think of it more as a prose poem? Maybe that would be helpful.
Well, yeah, I would, but then, you said earlier that you tend to think of prose poems with like sort of an arc and
Oh
so
no, I said
forth. And
prose poems don't have an arc.
well, they don't have an arc. Oh,
No,
okay. Well, that's a
to me,
relief.
prose poems don't have an arc. What has an arc is flash fiction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
Okay,
fiction
so
for
for
sure.
me,
Yeah.
and that's only for me, that's not for
Okay.
everybody, because I see tons of flash fiction that I would read it and I wouldn't even consider it. I consider it more like a prose poem. It
Okay.
doesn't have an arc. It could be beautiful description. It could
Right.
be, but it could get accepted as flash fiction. But
Well,
for me,
I've
that's
been
how I
trying.
think. Yeah.
I've been trying to, make the sentences in the prose section, kind of meaningful and heavy with imagery and stuff like that. But that's the challenge for me in this form. It's less the haiku, it's more
Well, I
the
think if you're
prose.
writing about Jupiter, just try to write some prose, poetic prose, let's call it. Let's
Mhm.
write some poetic prose about Jupiter.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
since you like astronomy, right? And
Mhm.
oh, the other trick I would use when I write about science, which I do a lot, I use the language of science. So I read about, so I actually have a poem about, remember when the two planets lined up a few years ago?
Mhm.
The conjunction,
Mhm.
was it Venus and Mars? This was recently a conjunction during the early,
Saturn and Jupiter.
that's it, Saturn and
And
Jupiter.
I went out and checked it out.
And I saw it, even though I live in Manhattan, I was able to see it because we had clear skies that night, and my friends who live upstate and in the country couldn't see it because it was raining. And I wrote a poem about that.
Mhm.
But I went and I did research. So for me, I do a little scientific research. I get a little bit of the scientific language, and then I mess around with that. So maybe that'll.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I just trying to get a poetic feel with the
And then
prose part of it.
read more Basho, or look
Mhm.
up Kamiko Han, maybe. Read what other people do with the forum. And, I'm fairly new to this forum. So, there are other people that have a lot more experience with it than I do. So, you don't have to. Oh, Hemingway could do Haibun. Someone wrote, let's see who said this. Oh, I bet Hemingway could do Haibun with his direct style. That's fun.
Well, I mean,
Good comment.
I think we've talked a lot about using the senses, and sometimes I think, it's across a broad section, but we tend to think that it has to be all purple prose, flowery. But I bet Hemingway could do a Haibun, just, with his very direct style.
Oh yeah, but I don't think flowery is good either. Too flowery is not interesting, right? Either extreme is not. If you don't have any imagery from the senses, then maybe it's a little too much like a speech, right? Like giving a speech.
Right,
You
but
know, like a political
Hemingway
speech.
sort of pulled back and was, uh, I mean, he did have
Hemingway
adjectives.
had great nouns, okay?
Yeah.
Hemingway had great nouns and great verbs. So it's just he didn't believe in adjectives. So but Hemingway's a prose writer. So and Hemingway was great at erasing, at not saying what was happening and having the reader figure it out. That was the brilliance of Hemingway. Like Hills Like White Elephants is always given an example of it's about abortion and it's about pregnancy and abortion and never mentions anything like those words, you know.
Mhm.
So
Or the baby shoes for sale,
or the
never
baby shoes
worn.
for sale. Yeah. So that's the one sentence story. To me, I find that gimmicky. I never go for those, but people probably do. So I think you have to find the balance for yourself, between direct language and figurative language. We all have a different sensibility, and that's great. We're not all the same, and we all have a different voice. And but it's great to keep trying things and pushing ourselves, and I think that's how we get better. Trying things outside our comfort zone, right? Amy Joy is nodding. So I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun, and and it forced me to write two new Haibun poems. So I do the assignments whenever I teach creative writing. So yeah, it's pushes me. I think it's great to take workshops for that reason, because it disciplines you, it forces you to have a deadline and things like that. So thank you, James. Sorry we didn't get to hear your voice, but I really liked what you wrote. And uh, and it's very different from those rhyming poems you originally sent me. I think you've really stretched yourself. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Susan, how did you do? Did she leave? Oh, she's here. Susan, did I
I'm
miss
trying to
you?
turn on my mic here.
Did I skip you? I feel like I skipped you.
Well, no, that's fine. I came in the middle of everything, having not been there.
I know, but did you work on something that you
Oh,
wanted to
sure,
read?
sure.
You
I
want to
just,
read some of it?
I've been
Okay.
working on some things anyway, and this was kind of interesting. I was kind of looking and seeing what I had done automatically and some things that I tried to do without I don't know, without giving it away, or with using something to be different than like motor oil, something like that. You
Right,
wouldn't
right.
necessarily think of that in a poem, but how can you soften certain things and make them take over and have a life of their own? So I had fun with
Yeah,
it.
great. And also the title can be on the mark, but not giving it away, like it could
Uh,
be evocative, right? A title can be evocative. And then the poem sort of answers what the title means. And that's the same with the haiku. The haiku kind of summarizes, but could also take it in a slightly different direction.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to be teaching at the Hudson Valley Writers Workshop in March. I'm going to be doing Spring Forward because it'll be on the day we put the clocks ahead in March. So it's going to be a prompt-based, try new things, springing our writing forward kind of workshop. So I can send you information on it. It is, I don't know what it's gonna cost. They charge for workshops at Hudson Valley Writers. But I don't know how much it'll be, and it'll be 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. I think it's on March 9th. Whenever we turn the clocks, it's on that day. Whenever we're doing Spring Forward. Okay, so I might send you information on it, and if you're interested, it would be great to see you again.
Well, thanks for a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks you, Cheryl. And yeah, take the train up to Sleepy Hollow for the Hudson Writers.
Yeah,
Hudson Valley Writers Center.
My workshop's gonna be online.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be online. Okay.
Mine
Well,
is because I want people to be able to take it from Michigan and Massachusetts and wherever,
Oh.
you know. And but no, they do have some in-person readings and things, and yeah, it's not hard to get to Sleepy Hollow. I can definitely do that.
yeah, and it's like fantastic. It's like a train station, then they converted it
I'm-
into a writer's center.
Isn't that amazing? I'd love to see
Yeah, I
it.
mean, it's still unbelievable to me, 20 years later when I first encountered the place. But thank you so much for everybody who took part tonight and last week. We loved hearing your work and your reactions in the chat. Do keep us in mind for future workshops. We, of course, have the reading series that we do every other Tuesday here in the Bronx, New York at Monomore Coffee and Wine, but we also do probably 3, maybe 4 workshops every year. So check us out. We think we will have some workshops. We're not quite lined up, enabling us to announce them, but starting in February-ish, we should have some workshops as well. So please do join us for that. This workshop tonight and last week were live streamed on YouTube, so you can always refer back to that, and also previous workshops that we've done at Art in the Basin. And with that, I want to thank Amy Joy Roboto for facilitating this, and Cheryl for, of course, presenting and leading the workshop. And
I want to thank you
well,
both for having me back, and thank Poets and Writers for supporting.
Thank you, Cheryl. I was just about to mention Poets and Writers who sponsored this workshop via New York City Cultural Affairs, and we are always very grateful for their contributions. All right. Take care, everyone.
Right.